Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Pracho Pracho Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Pracho Heno Prabhu Kotagela Acharya Thakur Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahadasa Raghunata Patita Pavan Kahamora Bata Yuga Kaha Kaviraj Eka Kale Kotagela Goranataraj Pashane Gativa Mata Annale Pashiva Goranga Gunera Nidhi Kota Kele Pamo Sesaba Sangira Sange Ye Koila Vilas Se Sanga Napaya Kande Narottamadas Kande Narottamadas Jayanila Premadana Karuna Pracho Hena Prabhu Kotagela Acharya Thakur Kotagela Acharya Right, translation is the disappearance of Madhva Acharya So, translation is, he who brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy, where is such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Srup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta, and where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Can you get the book, please? So yes, it's the disappearance of Madhvacharya, so we'll just read about him. Sri Madhvacharya appeared in 1238 AD near Udupi, Karnataka in South India. He was considered an incarnation of, anyone remember? Vayu, wind god. He had he had an unusually strong physique and extraordinary intellectual power. Once a fierce Bengali tiger attacked Madhvacharya's sannyas disciple, Satyatirtha. Madhvacharya wrestled the tiger and sent him away with his tail between his legs. Madhvacharya took Diksha at age 5, sannyas at 12, and left home. He appeared with a mission to fight and defeat Shankaracharya's Mayavad philosophy. By giving a pure interpretation of Vedanta Sutra, he promoted pure theism. He named his innovative Shastric explanation Dvaita Dvaitavad, pure dualism. After Shankaracharya, who had previously toured India spreading impersonalism, Madhvacharya also traveled the length and breadth of India preaching personal theism and devotion to Lord Vishnu. He defeated innumerable Jains, Buddhists, Mayavadis, atheists, logicians, and agnostics. With the hope of meeting Srila Vyasadeva himself, Madhvacharya walked out the Himalayas. Vyasadeva gave him a Shalagram Shila called Ashtamurti, approved his Bhagavad Gita commentary, and blessed Madhvacharya with deeper realizations of the Shastras. In Udupi, Madhvacharya installed a beautiful deity of Gopal standing alone holding a cowherding stick. This deity manifested from within a chunk of Gopi Chandan, sacred clay. He established 8 temples to lovingly serve Udupi Krishna. The sannyasi leaders of each temple worshiped the Krishna deity with a rigorous regimen of ceremonial ritual, punctuality, and impeccable personal conduct. Every Ekadashi they observed nirjal, no food and water. The Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya originates with the Madhvas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers thoroughly studied Madhva's works before compiling their philosophy. For their Shatsandarbhas, Sri Jiva Goswami drew heavily from Madhva's writings. Jiva Goswami found the Gaudiya philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva and Madhva's Bhagavat Parya. Sri Chaitanya himself visited Udupi, the seat of Madhva's sect. The Lord introduced Harinam Sankirtan into their sect. The Madhvas and Gaudiyas share many of the same philosophical points. Both consider it necessary to surrender to the lotus feet of the Guru. In Sutra Bhasha, Madhvacharya cites the Brihat Tantra and Mahasamhita to show that a disciple may reject a bogus guru who proves to be useless. He may then accept another qualified self-realized person as his guru. In Prameya Ratnavali, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan summarized the 9 principles common to both Sri Chaitanya's and Madhva's teachings. In Vaishnava Siddhantamala, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered all Gaudiya Vaishnavas to carefully observe the 9 instructions of truth given by Sri Madhvacharya through our Guru Parampara. Okay, so these are the 9 teachings of 1. Bhagavan Sri Krishna alone is the supreme absolute truth, one without a second. 2. He is the object of knowledge in all the Vedas. 3. The universe is real, Satya. 4. The differences between God and the soul and matter are real. 5. Jiva souls are by nature the servants of the Supreme Lord, Hari. 6. There are two categories of jivas, liberated and illusion. 7. Liberation, moksha, means attaining the lotus feet of Bhagavan Krishna. In other words, entering an eternal relationship of service to the Supreme Lord. 8. Pure devotional service to Krishna is the only way to attain this liberation. 9. The truth may be known by pratyaksha, direct perception, anuman, inference or logic, shabda, spiritual sound or Vedic authority. Srila Madhvacharya serves as Madhavi Gopi in Radha Govinda's eternal Vrindavan pastimes. So that's something about Madhvacharya. And it is our, say, great fortune to have such powerful teachers, acharyas within our line, in that they, you could say, they make the path clear. They clarify so many philosophical points, which is a very, it's just wonderful because so many traditions, for example, a lot of, anyways, I don't want to say unnecessarily criticize, but there's a lot more to, you could say, being accepted into the disciplic succession than just faith. Some religious groups nowadays, you just have to believe. You just say, I believe, and you're accepted. You're in the door. But within Krishna consciousness, there are so many rules, so many regulations, so many things that we have to follow in order to be actually accepted into disciplic succession. And so that's one thing that the acharyas have outlined for us, that there's a very clear process how to be accepted by a guru, or to become a disciple, what it means to become a disciple. And again, they have really contributed a lot in terms of helping us understand the scripture with their commentaries. So it's very wonderful. It's very wonderful to be in such a line. All right, so we'll go to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so Canto 7, God realization, the science of God. Chapter 6, Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates, and we're on text 10. Okay. Ko nu arta trishnam visrajet pranebhyo pi ya ipsitaha yam krinati asubhihi preshtais taskaraha sevako vanik konvarta trishnam visrajet pranebhyo piya ipsitaha yam krinat yashubhi preshtais taskara sevako vanik konvarta trishnam visrajet pranebhyo piya ipsitaha yam krinat yashubhi preshtais taskara sevako vanik konvarta trishnam visrajet Pranebhyo piya ipsitaha. Yam krinat yashabhi preshtais. Taskara sevakovanik.
Konvarta Trishnam Visrijet Pranebhyopi Ya Ipsitaha Yam Krinati Asubhi Preshtais Taskara Sevakovanik.
Kaha, who knew indeed, Arta Trishnam, a strong desire to acquire money. Visrajit, can give up. Pranebhyaha, then life. Api, indeed. Yaha, which. Ipsitaha, more desired. Yam, which. Krinati, tries to acquire. Asubhihi, with his own life. Prishtai, very dear. Taskaraha, a thief. Sevakaha, a professional servant. Vanik, a merchant. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. Therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life? Thieves, professional servants, soldiers, and merchants tried to acquire money even by risking their very dear lives. Purport. How money can be dearer than life is indicated in this verse. Thieves may enter the house of a rich man to steal money at the risk of their lives. Because of trespassing, they may be killed by guns or attacked by watchdogs, but still they try to commit burglary. Why do they risk their lives? Only to get some money. Similarly, a professional soldier is recruited into the army, and he accepts such service with the risk of dying on the battlefield, only for the sake of money. In the same way, merchants go from one country to another on boats at the risk of their lives. Or they dive into the water of the sea to collect pearls and valuable gems. Thus it is practically proved, and everyone will admit, that money is sweeter than honey. One may risk everything to acquire money, and this is especially true of rich men who are too attached to household life. Formerly, of course, the members of the higher caste, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, everyone but the Shudras, were trained in the Gurukul to adhere to a life of renunciation and sense control by practicing brahmacharya and mystic yoga. Then they were allowed to enter household life. There have consequently been many instances in which great kings and emperors have given up household life. Although they were extremely opulent and were the masters of kingdoms, they could give up all their possessions because they were trained early as brahmacharis. Prahlad Maharaj's advice is therefore very appropriate. Komara acharit pragyo dharman bhagavitaniha durlabam manusham janma tadap didruvam artadam. One who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Human society should take advantage of this instruction. Om Ekaritivadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Meditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karitivachalam Pangam Langai Teginim Yak Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurunditaranam Bacha Kapadri Bisha Kripasandi Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, translation again. Money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. Therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life? Thieves, professional servants, and merchants try to acquire money even by risking their very dear lives. Devamrita Swami's mother, when he was a young boy, when Devamrita Swami was a young boy, his mother told him that, naturally parents, they try to educate their children so that they have a better future and so on. That's the whole basis of education. You educate them in a certain way to better their future. That's the whole idea. So she told him that romance without finance is a nuisance. Means if you expect to be married, if you expect to have some type of romantic life, then you have to have some money. That's what she was trying to tell him. And I remember, anyways, my mother was telling me that her mother was saying to her one time that honey, it's just as easy to love a rich man. How did it go? As a poor man, yeah. Means okay, you may. It's easy to love a poor man, but it's also just as easy to love a rich man. In other words, you have to think about his financial situation. Now, when we read this verse, it says that money is conceived as being sweeter than honey. Now, it's not the money really that, how many people would be interested in money if it couldn't get you anything? People are interested in it because there's been value, right? The government or whoever has put value on it, and they're interested because of what they could get from it. So yeah, we could say ultimately people are really interested in the sense gratification or the comfort that it awards. Like we were just for some exercise. We were taking a bike ride recently here in Pacific Beach. We went to La Jolla, and we were coming back from La Jolla, and the devotees, they didn't want to go on the main street, which I could agree with because there's so many cars and smog and whatever. So they wanted to take some back roads. So Govardhan was there, Veer Chandra, myself, and Sankarsana Das. So we were taking the back roads and driving through this very, you could say, I didn't even know that neighborhood existed, but very wealthy neighborhood, quite expensive houses. And it was quiet, so that was worth it. But anyway, so you're going through all this neighborhood with all these houses, and yeah, I mean, these people work very hard, to acquire these houses. Really, really struggle. So yes, these people, they're interested in money, so they could get such places, so that they could, enjoy or be comfortable. And sometimes you wonder how enjoyable it really is. I mean, I've stayed in large houses, estates or whatever. And ultimately, what's so enjoyable about it? I mean, you're just in a room. Like, after all, you're in a room. It's like the house may look very nice outside, but then once you enter, you're just in a room. There's a bed there. There's a table there, just as if you were anywhere else. Of course, I could understand, like, comparing that to the slums of Tijuana or something, but and of course you could say the crime in the neighborhood and so on, but much of this is, you could say, a pride thing, and that, hey, look what I got. Look at my big fancy house, and look at my competition, envy. It's a great, what do you call, pleasure in the material world to have things that other people don't have, and to have people envy you. It's a twisted type of pleasure. Prestige, right? So, but yeah, it's so dear to people. I mean, the verse says it's so dear that people risk their lives. The examples given: thieves, soldiers, merchants. They're risking their lives to try to acquire money. I mean, it's very dangerous. You try to break into someone's home, and they may have a gun, and they may shoot you dead. But they think, okay, I'm going to take the risk, right? I'm going to go in and try to see what I could get. Or soldiers, right? Like all these people, they sign up for whatever, military or whatever. I mean, they're signing up for, what are they signing up for? I mean, a lot of them, what are they signing up for? What's a very important reason they're signing up? Yeah, college tuition. I mean, that's a lot of money. How much is it to go through college these days?
Depends on college.
Yeah. You get
$20,000. It's a reasonable college.
easy 20,000. Yeah, so anyways, it goes up depending on the colleges. So it's expensive, so okay, free tuition or and in some of these cases, yeah, they are sent to war and they do have to risk their life. But they don't mind. Okay, I could do it as long as there's something on the end there, pay some money. Says merchants, they go from one country to another on boats at the risk of their lives, or they dive into the water of the sea to collect pearls and valuable gems. So there's a lot of risky things that people do for money. Remember Shyamasundar Prabhu, he was into the business of, he'd go to all these kind of wild places and do mining to get diamonds and all types of, but he was also risking his life. He writes about in his book that at one particular point he was in a jungle. I don't know, I'm forgetting where. It was Africa or South America, I don't know. And he was in a jungle, then risking his life to, and he finds himself in a tree, like high in a tree with another person, and guess who was down there below?
Snake.
No, not a snake.
Tiger.
Tiger, yeah. I mean, they were spooked, they're up there.
Tigers can climb trees.
Yeah, so apparently he lived, I mean, he did live to tell the story, right in his book, but he was risking his life. So yeah, people do that. So it's practically proved, and everyone will admit, that money is sweeter than honey. Now, therefore, those in the Grihastha ashram, most of you aren't here in the Grihastha ashram, so maybe somebody online, but it's very important. Like every ashram has its particular, you could say, sacrifice or austerity they have to perform in order to be a proper member of the ashram. So for brahmacharis, it's swadhyaya, to study, to read, to hear Vedic literature. And in our case, because traditionally that means different things, but as followers of Srila Prabhupada, we study Srila Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, so many other books he produced. And Prabhupada, he emphasized this a lot. His disciples, his now grand disciples, grand disciples, reading. He said that, oh, you're so... Anyways. So, but part of the austerity or the sacrifice in the Grihastha ashram is to give in charity. And why is that? Because one's collecting so much, or at least they're collecting something, right? Collect money. And if one doesn't give that, then they become attached to it. In other words, it will foster selfishness within them, which, after all, the selfishness is one of the main problems that the conditioned souls have in material existence. So, to give in charity, it helps in the realm of becoming, you could say, detached, which is important. So, and that's the idea, that we are meant to become detached. We're meant to become detached from material enjoyment, from material opulence, for collecting and spending and all these activities. We're meant to become detached. And instead of being attached to that, collecting and spending and whatever, we're meant to become attached to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His holy name, His pastimes, and so on. So a brahmachari is trained how to live a life free of selfishness. Now, of course, you could always cheat the system, and you could be a selfish brahmachari, but that's not really accepted proper training. But if one, you could say, lives brahmachari life in the proper way, one will be trained how to live a selfless life. And then there's the Grihastha ashram, that's also supposed to be training, right? And the idea is that with that training, the training of the brahmachari ashram, of course, one could continue as a brahmachari. You don't have to move on, but nonetheless, the training of a brahmachari in the early stages of their Krishna consciousness will help them later in what? In renunciation. And Prabhupada gives an example of so many, or the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the example of so many kings, right, who just left. You have Maharaj Anga, right? His son was a bad son. Those of you who know the history, very bad son. I mean, out on the playground, he was, killing other children for fun. So the king he's a devotee, he's a saintly devotee. So I mean, he was just destroyed by this. His son's behavior. I mean, sometimes the devotees think their sons are bad, right? Oh, my son doesn't come to the temple. All right, well, he's still a vegetarian. He still thinks of Krishna sometimes. He's not out on the playground killing other boys, but so. But Anga Maharaj was struggling with this. So what happened at night, he just left. He just left. He just went to the forest. And whatever that. And then you have Bharat Maharaj, who left at an early age. He left his kingdom, everything. He left it in a very radical way, Bhagavatam describes, right? And then he went out to the forest. Now, of course, Bharat Maharaj had his problems, becoming attached to a deer, like we heard this morning in the morning announcements, reading. He became attached to a deer, and he forgot about his sadhana and everything. And one of the things that are brought up in relation to that pastime is that he was lacking good association. He didn't have anyone really to tell him, hey, Prabhu, looks like you're getting into Maya. You become a little bit too attached to that deer. But no one was there, so then he died and took birth as a deer, and then eventually he died in that deer birth, and then eventually became Jad Bharat, and then he became liberated. So, but you have Bharat Maharaj, Anga Maharaj, you have Dhruva, you have so many kings, and they set the example that even though they're living such opulent lives, they leave. Now, of course, people say, okay, does that mean I have to leave? We say, yes. No, but people say, does that mean I have to leave my home? And Srila Prabhupada would emphasize this, leaving home. And the Vedas do emphasize it. Okay, 50, close up shop. You say, what if there's still customers? Well, they could go to a different shop. But it's not necessary that everyone takes sannyas. There is need for it. In the world, there's not so many sannyasis. So if one could do it, great. But it's not absolutely necessary. One could become a vanaprastha. But they should do that. They should do that properly. And I think there's devotees writing books about that right now. Vanaprastha. There's a few devotees writing books. Which a lot of devotees have faith that the vanaprasthas, and we see personally there's a number of vanaprasthas, good examples, that after their children have grown up, after they have closed shop, right, they take to the preaching mission in a more, you could say, direct way. Like, for example, you have Vaikuntha and Janavi, right, who are helping to manage ISKCON Honolulu. They're retired and they're contributing. And you have, anyways, there's a number of devotees who are, so, yeah, and if you have such powerful, you could say, couples who have spent many years together and practicing Krishna consciousness and raising children and retiring, they can contribute a lot in their later years. So that's there also. And for those who can take sannyasa, then they should. All right, confirmation. And the ability to be detached later on in one's life, which is very, very important, is based on the training that one accepts in the early days, or at whatever point. Their training. And therefore, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, Komara acharit pragyo, that one should, from the very beginning of their life, one should be trained in Krishna consciousness, how to control the mind. There's an art. How to control the senses. How to be satisfied. Different children in different parts of the world, they're trained in certain ways, and a lot of the children, a lot of children nowadays, they tend to be, what do you call, they tend not to be grateful. They complain, not grateful, nothing's good enough for them, right? oh, you didn't, I wanted this for Christmas and you didn't get me, I wanted 20 things and you only got me 10 things, like what is, or my sister, she was telling of her son, she was saying, what should I get my son? He's an only son. And she loves the guy to death, What can I get for my son? He already has everything, So, and she's made the comment, oh, first world problems, right? What do I get my son? He already has everything. So, but one should be trained how to be grateful, for example. It's important, I mean, even the cannibals don't want anything to do with the ingrate. Mahabharata explains that. In other words, they're so low. We went to Mexico some time ago, and we went to distribute prasadam and chant Hare Krishna there with in some neighborhood. It was a poor neighborhood, and Mahananda, he does that a few times a year. Goes and gives them prasadam and chants Hare Krishna, but it was amazing how, and he was also giving he collected some donations from his family and friends, and old shirts and pants and stuff and whatever, random stuff like that. So we had kirtan, we had prasadam, and then he distributed that stuff. But it was interesting because you see those people, they were so grateful just to, and he was throwing it out to the crowd and they're grabbing it, It was like a game or something, they're grabbing it. That was like their shopping. And it was also interesting looking at them because a number of them wanted the stuff, especially the baby stuff. They tend to go kind of wild over that. But it was interesting because although that everyone wanted them, looking in the crowd, you could see that they weren't envious. It was just like, all right, well, they got it, that's okay, It's part of the game, Sometimes you, like a beggar, right? Sometimes Krishna says in the 10th canto, sometimes you get, sometimes you don't get, but you're satisfied. So that type of training, for example, that means not that exact training, but the training of how to be grateful, which is part of the training, how to control the mind, how to control the senses, how to be austere. And most importantly, how to remember Krishna, how to be a devotee, right? The most important thing. So for those who have children, most of you don't here, but those of you who have children, it's of the utmost importance to train them as much as possible in Krishna consciousness. And those of you who were trying to fulfill this Komara Acharya Pragya said, well, I didn't start when I was a child, I started quite later. If we want to look at ourselves in terms of us being trained, it's important that we accept the training. There's a lot of training going on here at the temple. It's a place it's training ground, right? But we have to also accept. It's very important because you could join something but just not accept the training. It happens. So yeah, human society should take advantage of this instruction, try to perfect their life, try to be Krishna conscious. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes.
Nobody else. I appreciate it.
I appreciated the way you presented it about Varnaprastha and how they wrap up and then they can preach, and you gave good examples. There's a lot of good examples. Simultaneously, we read what should not be lost is that, even the Pandavas, not even, they were great souls, the Pandavas all took sannyas, leaving Draupadi behind.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I'll probably be cursed for this, although sometimes you see householders, they really could take sannyas and they should take sannyas. So it's kind of become the culture that, well, nobody really takes sannyas. Where that's the graduation, like Prabhu gives the example of bamboo. You know, if you bend it too fast, it snaps, but if you bend it slowly, so the idea is that one goes, we all know, goes through the different stages. But a lot of times people just stop at Varnaprastha, and it becomes the rare person that takes sannyas. So how do you, I mean, like, I'm glad that Vaikuntha hasn't taken sannyas. Because Janavi's great, helping there with the ladies and the preaching, and gives him emotional support. So I'm great. That, you know, and there's a lot of good examples, like Bhaktavatsal and his wife. They spend more time here worshiping the deities than they do at home. But how do you have that right balance and what's right for that stage? But it doesn't become that no one takes sannyas. I don't really know the answer exactly, but I'm genuinely inquiring, what do you think?
All right. Yeah, I was talking with one Prabhupada disciple, and he was in America, and he was mentioning how it would be considered quite radical if, like, someone in the community, like a householder, just like decided, okay, you know, I'm moving on, I'm taking sannyas. Like, everybody would be kind of surprised. And like you're saying, there's a certain culture that develops, or yeah. And of course, I don't know, maybe people, I mean, even Srila Prabhupada was mentioning how, you know, he would have dreams at night as when he was, you know, with his family, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would come, and Prabhupada said, oh, I'd wake up and I was quite frightened. How can I just leave? And eventually Prabhupada did that. So, I mean, there could be an element of, you could say, of uncertainty or fear, or what will happen, or no one's really doing this, so why should I, or can I really make it? You know, because whatever, there's been cases where devotees unfortunately have not been able to stay strong in that ashram. They think, okay. And one devotee was telling me years ago how, you know, the ministry, the sannyas ministry, it's a constant. Naturally, I mean, the ministry hasn't been relatively around that long, so they're trying to better the systems, and as time goes. So this devotee was telling me that some time ago they were making it more difficult for brahmacharis to take sannyas, and they were thinking that, okay, well, we'll make it more easy for grihastas to take sannyas. That was their kind of idea, because whatever their idea was, you know, why they were doing that. But later on, they found that in a lot of cases, it was more difficult for the grihastas to get into that mood of sannyas, and brahmacharis, it was a bit easier because they're already living a certain way. But anyways, it could be so many things why people aren't doing it. But you could say that's the importance of, you could say, the movement, or leaders in the movement, or preachers in the movement, speaking about it and trying to, you could say, stress the importance of it. And trying to, you could say, help people understand that it's a normal thing. Just as we accept that it's normal to be a brahmachari, we accept that it's normal to be a grihasta, we accept that it's normal to be a vanaprastha. So it's also normal to be a sannyasi. It's part of the system. It shouldn't be something that's like, oh, that's just, you know, that's just for some like super rare souls. Of course, it's a serious thing, and one should be qualified, but one could come to that point. But especially for the, Prabhupada would make the point in his books, especially for the Brahminically inclined teachers, educator type, then they're especially encouraged to do that, to take sannyas. So yeah, how do we? Does anybody have any other ideas? Okay.
One of the things that, when Prabhupada talks about this, it's always that, yes, and you take, Vanaprastha, and you travel to different, temples or whatever, holy places, and there's no contact, we know that. And then eventually the wife goes back and is taken care of by the older grown-up son,
Yeah.
one of the grown-up sons. Finding those grown-up sons who are ready to take the burden, I think, is also one of the things you find, that you have, older couples in ISKCON, and the kids may or not be strict devotees, but assuming they're devotees of a certain standard. But the society is such that they're scattered here and there,
Yeah.
and they're struggling themselves to build their own household, and the culture, of being able to support the wife and everything is there. And that's I think, and you get to a certain age, and it's, well, okay, we're 62 now, and it's you're not 50, you want to leave those years of vigor so you can preach. So it's I think the society to support it, that element of society is not there, and so everyone is moving around.
Yeah, becomes more difficult. I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted, I don't think he created, but he had an idea to create a place in Mayapur where the retired ladies could be, and they'd be taken care of, and so like a social network type of thing. Because you could say, okay, well, generally the elder son would take care, but what if there's some circumstances, I don't know, the person dies prematurely, or what if he took sannyas? Like, there's certain circumstances. So for the society to build some type of social network, if you want to call that, so they're taken care of. I'm thinking like Alachua. There's a lot of devotees there. Most devotees in America are there, or quite a few. And if someone was to take sannyas from there, for example, there's a lot of devotees. In other words, loneliness shouldn't really be a problem. There's so many devotees. And also just basic, if the person worked, if the person was responsible, then he sets everything up. That's part of the householders taking sannyas these days. In the ministry, they have to sign some paper that they're not just leaving their wife in the dust with no, with no finance. Yeah, they have to get permission. So okay, he sets her all up. The house is there. The children are grown up, and he's got a community of devotees there, and then he could just leave. But yeah, there's all types of complications. You had some other?
Yeah, because we should end, but
As you said about, you see in Vrindavan, they have a lot of those widows' ashrams.
Yeah.
You'll be walking by or going by in a rickshaw, and you hear a bunch of old ladies having a bhajan. You look down, and there'll be a deity, and you'll see them all sitting there. And that's the same kind of thing. The family pays a certain amount of money, or it's like a, what do you call that, active retirement home.
Yeah.
And they get prasadam, they have a room, and they have ladies that, it's managed nicely.
Yeah.
And they get joint prasadam. It's a nice arrangement.
Yeah.
And they live but what I wanted to say was that, well, just a simple thing. It needs to be in the culture, and it needs to be in everyone's mind. They're going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. And therefore, Prabhupada wrote me personally that we have to become our own good association, because after all, our own acharya, And then Prabhupada said, because after all, we're all going to be alone at the time of death. Ultimately, we're all going to be there. It's just us and our consciousness, and we're dying. And what are we going to do about it? Are we going to take shelter of Krishna? And people, oh, don't talk like that. It gets very scary. But it's a fact, and you have to prepare for it. Prabhupada said, actually, the beauty of human life is to die in an unknown place at a distance. Family doesn't know. You're at some tirtha somewhere else, preaching in Zimbabwe or wherever it is. That's glorious. But we're all going to be there. We're all going to be standing there alone. Prabhupada says you can give all good instruction, but the plane, you got to fly it yourself. So we need to know that taking sannyas ultimately at the right time, right place, is essential and should be part of our life plan. Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to be unprepared for that trying moment. Hare Krishna. Yeah, on that happy note.
Just two quick things. There was one devotee, my spiritual master tells this, because it's about attachment, because like you're saying, we have to become detached. So he tells the story that there was this devotee, it's a true story. There's a devotee and he's going, and then all of a sudden his car breaks down or whatever, and there's a train coming. And then the train's coming right at him, and he's like, all right, well, I guess, this is it. So he starts chanting Hare Krishna. And then right before the train, he lives to tell the story, but right before the train hit him, he think, oh, my wife. And then the train hit, Now, whether if it's a wife or husband or whatever, the point is to dog or whatever, the point is to be detached. So yeah, we have to train in that way. But the last thing I was just thinking of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he accepted sannyas at a very early age. Of course, whatever, but it's interesting because his mother was Shachi Priya, and she was elderly, and Jagannath Mishra was gone at that point, and his wife Vishnu Priya, she was young, and there was no son, and he left, and of course it's explained that they had some servant, Ishan. Ishan was there somehow or other. He was there and he was taking care of things, but yeah, it was an interesting thing to consider. All right, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right, just in time, the mic's red, dying.